Welcome to Confident Coparenting, building a better life for you and your kids. I'm your host, Jeanne Ward. This show goes beyond co-parenting. It's about self-discovery and personal growth. Separation and divorce can shake your sense of identity, but my goal is to help you feel at ease in your own skin, both as a parent and in your new life. Through engaging conversations, I'll share tips, tools, and mindset shifts to help you build confidence, communicate effectively, and strengthen your self-identity. Let's dive in and see your situation in a new light, because when you thrive, so do your kids. A better future starts now. Hey everyone, I'm Jeanne Ward, and you're listening to Confident Co-Parenting on Transformation Talk Radio. The journey to confident co-parenting is one of growth, self-awareness, and healing. And along the way, tools as well as professionals can make all the difference. If you're hoping for a more peaceful, more collaborative experience through your divorce, then a mediator can make all the difference and be a rock star for you and for the whole experience. Today, I am thrilled to be joined by Melissa Hurd, who is the Executive Director of the Justice Center of Atlanta. She's also a seasoned mediator herself, and she's going to share with us a little bit more about what the center does and mediation. And so I'm just thrilled to have her here today. Welcome, Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. It's going to be great information that I hope a lot of people can really utilize when they are going through divorce in the event that they want to utilize a mediator. And so they know a little bit more.
Always happy to share about mediation. Always happy to.
Excellent. Excellent. So when I talk about confident co-parenting, I'm usually focusing on relationships and communication and how we handle that divorce process can really make all the difference of what happens after. It can really lay the groundwork of the communications that we're going to have moving forward post divorce, and sometimes the months and years ahead, sometimes forever. So that divorce, those proceedings, that process, it's really good to be intentional about how you want that to go. And depending on how you approach your ex, depending on the tone, the communication, for example, if you're communicating with your ex or if you're going through attorneys, that can set up some patterns and habits that can continue afterwards. So that's why, for me, mediators are so wonderful because they provide a different option and a neutral party to help with those communications. Um, Melissa, I'd love for you to first share with our audience just a little bit in general about the center, and then we'll get a little bit into more detail about mediation. The center is one that does a lot of training. I got trained there myself and rave about it. And so, could you share with the audience a little bit more about the Justice Center of Atlanta?
Sure. The Justice Center began back in 1977. So we've been around for over 45 years. We provide court-connected, private, and federal and community-based mediation or facilitation services, specifically mediation, but we also do provide training, and that training is around conflict resolution at all levels, federal, state, local government, international. But what we do is we bring people who are adversarial in their views to sit down and talk and try and negotiate a solution, maybe not always a written legal agreement, but a resolution to the issues by bringing a trained neutral mediator, that third party, into the conversation to work on an agreement or find out the solutions. So we've been around for a while, doing training and all things related to conflict.
Excellent. And that's one thing that was really eye-opening to me was that mediation can and is used in so many different areas of our lives. It's not just about divorce. It could be employment disputes. It can be, all different sorts of disputes. And so that was really interesting, but helpful to through the training to have people in all these other different professions to learn what type of mediation they do and how they also can come to different like you said, agreement or resolutions in these different experiences.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So today we're going to focus on divorce, though, because it is where our audience is focused, and especially when divorce has the children involved, it's that much more helpful to them and beneficial for their health and wellness to have as smooth and amicable of a process as possible. So that's where, again, mediation can come in and help that. Melissa, would you mind talking a little bit more about the actual mediation process and, like you mentioned, the mediator being a neutral third party, and just talk a little bit more about what happens in a divorce mediation process?
Okay, great. Absolutely. First, let me say that all mediators will modify their process depending on the participants. So, what I'm saying is a general overview of what mediation might look like, but the reality is, depending on the parties, the conflict, safety issues, location, in person, face to face versus virtual, there are a lot of components that play into the process. But typically, it's the opportunity to discuss all of those issues, and there are stages for it. Most mediators will agree that the process starts at intake. The first time you start talking with the mediator on the phone, confidentiality kicks in and the process has begun. So, the phone calls, the back and forth coordination of the schedule, all of that is also part of the process in building rapport. But the big pieces are you come to the table or you meet on Zoom and you have that opening statement from the mediator to express the ground rules, expectations, and exceptions to what we can and can't keep confidential in domestic cases for safety reasons. So that's the first part of it is the mediator takes time to open up the process and give you some expectations so it's not so overwhelming. And then from there, depending on how the mediator does their individual process, they want to hear from each of the parties about their issues, concerns, and expectations. So they'll engage you in trying to figure out where you are and where you want to get to. And that's helping them kind of game plan what their steps will be for you through the process. There's a lot of open discussion and clarification of the concerns. What you feel to be important may differ greatly from your opposing party, be it the spouse or your significant other if you were not married. But there's a lot of discussion and clarification. Remember, the mediator is learning from you what your issues are, not telling you what you should do with your issues.
Mm-hmm.
They'll speak with you jointly, possibly. They may have a time where they speak to you privately, and we call those caucuses. They're just a caucus, it's a private meeting. And that gives you the opportunity to kind of vent in a safe space so that you can move forward on those issues. And the mediator will continue that process for hours, maybe days, if you have to do it over smaller sessions for multiple weeks. But the ultimate goal is for them to get to a place where they can draft your thoughts into an enforceable agreement that you can carry out with either filing it in the court or utilizing it to kind of manage your pace until you're ready to actually file on a temporary basis. So I hope that kind of gives you a layout for the process, and it can be a little different for each mediator depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. Well, and I love that you said it can be a session, it can be multiple sessions. So no one's doing it wrong
Right.
if they're not able to come to that agreement the first time around, that it could
Absolutely.
continue. So that's really good to know. Um, and the other piece, I love it that you talk about the confidentiality and also this person, the mediator, being neutral. And so how does that impact, just something that's popping in my head now is like, how does that impact if one party or the other is the one choosing the person who is the actual mediator?
Right. Well, typically what will happen is one person takes the initiative. And for the sake of just discussion, the husband might say, let's reach out to this mediator. And so the husband reaches out, talks to the mediator, and the wife says, great, I'll go with that person, no problem. Well, most mediators will invite the other person they've not spoken to call. Let
Mm,
me check in with you, make sure that you don't have any concerns and that you are comfortable with me as your mediator. We're not
yeah,
discussing the issues of the case, but just to make sure that there is comfort in the conversation.
yeah,
And to also check in to make sure there are no safety concerns. one thing that in Georgia we have to do as mediators if we are registered with the state for domestic cases is we have to screen every case for domestic violence. So that might happen through a virtual platform where we have the parties do a questionnaire, or it may be a phone call where we as the mediator are having a conversation with that party to ensure that we can go forward safely.
Yeah.
So it's really important when one side initiates that both sides have the opportunity to accept that person or refuse. And any
Yeah.
good mediator will give you a list of other mediators. If I'm not the one for you, I will give you happily a list of people you could go to find that comfortable spot.
Excellent. Great point. Thank you for making that. Because it is, a lot of it is about comfort. Different personalities might feel better or worse for someone.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's important about finding the right fit. As people are going through that, quote unquote, interviewing phase of trying to find the right mediator for them and their soon-to-be ex-spouse or partner, are there any specific questions that you recommend that they ask?
Yeah, I think make sure they have clear expectations. So ask what they are. And if they can't give that to you, not to say it wouldn't be a good process, but be clear on what they're expecting of you. If there are documents they need, if there
Mm,
is correspondence that's required, signature of certain documents for initiation into the mediation. Make sure those are clear up front so there aren't any surprises throughout the process. If
yeah.
they expect that sessions are set for limited times, it's not all day as long as we need. Be
Right.
clear about those expectations for yourself and the other party. And a big thing is be cautious if you're getting a one-sided conversation from your third party neutral where they say, well, I wouldn't say this to the other side, but be cautious
Mm,
because that's mediation is built on the premise of neutrality and ethics. And if those are violated, it's going to not keep your process safe. It's
yeah.
not going to keep it where both sides can feel heard, self-determined, fully informed, and able to go forward. So just really talk to the mediator, make sure they have experience in the area that you are mediating in. If they've never done a
Hmm.
divorce, maybe not a good time to take that person on as a divorce mediator. But they
Right.
may be excellent with contracts and excellent with, wills and estates, but maybe not domestic. So
Yeah.
make sure that their experience lines up with what your needs are, and the knowledge of the court. Not that they're going to advise you, but what's the next step? If you reach an agreement, do they know how you get that agreement into the right hands so that it becomes an order? And here in Georgia, again, we don't have a uniform court system. Every judge, every court may operate a bit differently. So make sure they have some knowledge base around the court that you are entering your case into.
Really good information. Yeah. And those are really good questions and things for people to keep in mind. I love what you said about neutrality and ethics is that foundation of mediation. And so that's just really important and that the mediator isn't representing anyone, right? Like in the
Right.
way that we engage with an attorney, right? It's a very different experience. So that's really great to know. I'm going to go ahead and take a pause here because I do want the audience to know how they can get in touch with you or the center if they're interested in learning more. We may have people out there that are interested in getting some training themselves. How could someone reach out?
The best way is through our website, and that's justicecenter.org. JUSTICE Center, CENTER.org. No fancy spellings, no foreigns, just, justicecenter.org. And you can also reach us through JCAinfo at justicecenter.org, which is a general mailbox that we all keep abreast of, and we'll forward those mails and those emails directly to the staff that need them.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
And for our listeners, if you're just tuning in and want to hear the beginning of the episode or reach out, find out any other episodes of Confident Co-Parenting or anything else, you can go to the Transformation Network on YouTube. If you'd like to see this episode as well as other Confident Co-Parenting episodes, you can always go to confidentcoparenting.com and go to the podcast tab. Okay, so let's go ahead and get back to talking about mediators and mediation. Um, One thing that I loved about the experience of the training and that I learned was about the focus forward that mediation takes. And I don't think it's a real specific, um, you know, aspect of the training that we got, but there was this belief of we want to help the people that we're working with look towards the future. So in coaching, and the reason it resonated with me was because in coaching, that is the approach that we take is where are you at now? What do you want? Where do you want to be with yourself, your children, your new life? Let's figure out what the obstacles are and get you there. So it's not digging up the past of, well, how or why did this person get you all in debt? Who who cheated on whom? Things like that. And we're not going into the past to look into all of that, but we're saying, what do we want for the future? And I feel that mediation has that approach as well, right? Like, how are we going to make some agreements here so that we can move you all forward as a different type of family, or individuals.
Yes,
Can you talk a little bit more about that future focused mindset and
absolutely.
how it impacts mediation?
Yeah, as one of the trainers here, that's something I probably say 5 or 6 times during one of our courses is that we are future focused. I like to, in my mediations, even tell the parties, I am a big, huge Disney fan. I love Magic Wands. I love Voldemort. I love all Harry Potter. The reality, though, is I can't take my wand and change your past. I have no magic. But I
Mm,
am future focused, and I believe mediation is designed that way because it's important to remember you can't change the past, but the goal is to not repeat the past. So we're going to build you out a plan that will hopefully alleviate that. And that plan is around things that have happened to result in you coming up with what will be and what can be without focusing on, well, in the past, this happened. And absolutely it did. So what can we do
yeah,
to prevent that from happening in the future? And that's your plan. So
I
that's
like
that's where we
it.
are with future focused.
I like it. So yeah, that prevention is a really important piece of it.
Mhm.
Very, very
Absolutely.
good. Good information to know. And it helps having that mindset as you go into mediation, right? A
Absolutely.
lot of times, in the coaching world, we talk about emotional justice, that a lot of people are hoping to go into the divorce proceedings and or to court to get emotional justice, which is that justice of how I feel. I was done wrong, and I need someone to see that and then, reward me because of what I've gone through emotionally, and that's not part of the divorce process. And so I think that that's another thing where when we're looking towards the future, it's pulling that out of the equation.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to remind people that it took time to get into the conflict you're in. So don't expect one mediation session to alleviate all of the hurt. It can get you on a plan to take steps. So you've got to give some time to get through the mediation process. Don't expect that, well, they did wrong and I want it all taken care of by one meeting. So
Yeah.
be patient with yourself and know that it took time
Mm.
to get where you are. It will take time to get out of where you are.
Yeah. Yeah. No, good point. And that just triggered a thought of a conversation you and I had before in regards to the possible continued need for a mediator, right? That all of this takes time, and that there could be multiple sessions in the time at the time of divorce, but also even later, right? People's lives change, sometimes incomes change. The children's situation might change as far as someone going off to college, and that might even be a reason to revisit meeting with a mediator to and tell us more if that's, changing those agreements and or creating new ones. How would something like that work?
Absolutely. Just for reference, I've been in this field for about 30 years. So I'm not brand new to it, but I know I'm not the oldest practitioner out there. So the reality is, though, I have had my share of what I call investors. And I call them investors because just like your stocks and your bonds and your investment accounts, you periodically take a look at them to make sure they're functioning. And I
Mm-hmm.
encourage people to do that in their divorce. Your child changes year to year. There may be new things that come up. So do an annual checkup. Come to a mediator, sit down, look at your plan, and make sure it's still working. It may not need a
Mm-hmm.
change, but if there need to be adjustments, you can do that in that same confines of being able to talk confidential in a confidential setting. You can have those private meetings, and you can schedule those. I've had several couples who I see every year, and I've one couple I've seen every year for the last 9 years. And they come in every summer. They review their parenting plan. They look at what works, what doesn't. They adjust their finances for support as necessary. And it keeps them from fighting over it. They can just put it on the burner and say, well, we'll
Yeah.
go see Melissa in a few months. It's not going to change today, but we can talk about it tomorrow. So, really
Yeah.
doing that check in, schedule that time to continue to have positive parenting and allow that the focus doesn't have to be on the fight in the minute, but is it if it's going to impact the long-term schedule, come back, sit down, talk about it. Set those annual visits,
Yeah.
just a
Yeah, I
couple
love
hours.
that. I love that. And sometimes those conversations are very hard to have on your own. So having that neutral party can be really helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I can relate to that personally as well. I know there's some, hot topics for my ex and I, and we have to be really careful when we go into those conversations. We have to be very prepared. They can't just come up on a random phone call. We have to be intentional about when we're going
Yeah,
to have
and
them.
if you
So,
think about it, when you're sitting at the table and you make this plan and you think, "Okay, I'm good. I don't have to deal with this person for the rest of my life." That's not realistic,
right.
and things change. You may enter a new relationship, and your ex relationship, you all need to make a plan on how to do that because it's blending, and that's
Right.
important. It's important for the kids, it's important for you all as adults.
Yeah. Yeah. And as much as you can plan for things, the smoother it goes if and
Absolutely.
when it happens. Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Okay, well, I've got one more question, one more topic that I wanted to get to with you, and it's kind of around what we were just saying about the stressful aspect of divorce. That so much is going on, and it's hard emotionally, financially, logistically, especially when kids are involved. One thing that I have found with myself and with people I work with is the more that they understand the position of their soon to be ex or ex, it can help them address the issue in a more logical way
Yes.
versus getting emotional about it. Um, and with mediation, that's one thing that I took away from the training was to really that mediators can often help people get to what's beneath the request or why they're fighting for something, to understand the why behind it. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. How can that help in a mediation session?
Absolutely, because the it's emotional. And we make if we're not making decisions in our cognitive logical brain and we make it in the emotional brain, then we regret and we wish we hadn't. So being able to have a space, the judge can't give you that time. The judge who's going to make that decision can't. You hire your attorney so they can argue on your behalf. So a third party neutral will reality test. They will sit in caucus with you and say, I hear you. I think I understand you. However, let's look at it from another perspective. So that reality testing, that ability for a third party neutral to not be invested in your outcome, but definitely in
Mm,
the success of the agreement. So they're not trying to tell you what to do, but they want to make sure what you choose will be successful. So I
mm,
think that that is a big part of the why is giving you're being given space to be able to fully explain it, but not therapeutically from a very
right.
end of logical, end of process place, but without that emotional attention from the attorney advocating for you or the judge who's trying to get this off his docket, but from a
Yeah.
third party neutral who's invested in the process so that you can have a successful agreement.
Yeah, yeah. And I think one of the kind of very typical, or we use this example a lot, is something like, maybe the house, it's not realistic for the family home to stay with one or
Absolutely.
both because of cost, right? And one person just continues to fight for it. Well, what might be behind it is the kids to be able to stay in that neighborhood for school and or friends, right? So there's something behind it in regards to why they're fighting so hard for that, even though maybe financially it's not realistic.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it, like you said, it gives people the space to explain all of that.
Mhm. Mhm.
Excellent.
And to have that reality test back. Yeah,
Ah,
yeah.
yeah. Yep. So is there anything else that we haven't touched on that you feel is really important for the audience to know and hear in regards to either when they're looking for mediation, considering it, or working with someone?
Yeah, I would say engage in mediation early. Really think about using it not as part of litigation or, oh, I filed, now I have to mediate, but really think about it when you start thinking about leaving. When you start thinking about separation or filing, consider talking to a third party neutral so that you're able to go in jointly with an understanding of the bigger picture. So early and often, and making sure that you are using it for not just divorce, but modifications, changes, and adjustments.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay. Well, one more time, can you give the website again for the Justice Center?
Sure. Our website is justicecenter.org, and the email is jcainfo@justicecenter.org.
Fantastic. Thank you. Melissa, thank you so much for being with us today and sharing all of this information in regards to the center as well as mediation. Really
Absolutely.
appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you
know a
very
lot of
much.
people will learn from it. And also, everyone can go to Confident Co-Parenting to that podcast tab if you want to watch this episode again and or see other episodes of Confident Co-Parenting. And just want to thank everyone for being here today. If anything resonated with you that you think someone else could benefit from, please share. And until next time, please take care of yourself, your kids, and those relationships that matter most to you. Thank you all and have a great day. You've been listening to Confident Co-Parenting. Join me, Jeanne Ward, every second Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio for more insights and practical strategies to support your co-parenting journey. Let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media, subscribe to the podcast, and share it with those who could benefit. And if you or someone you know needs support, coaching can make all the difference. Visit confidentcoparenting.com to learn more. See you next time.